today I want to talk about what foods to eat to optimize fertility, because I think this is information that every woman should have, right? This is the stuff that we should be teaching in biology and nutrition and sex education in school, and we don't. So I'm going to teach it to you here today. And this is advice that I regularly give my one-on-one patients and have an amazing success rate with helping women get pregnant naturally. First, let's talk about why the food that we eat matters. So a real basis of fertility and reproduction is that our body needs enough energy to procreate, right? Our body needs enough fuel to create a whole nother human being. In order to do this, we need to be feeding our body the right food so that our body has the nutrients and the energy to create the resources it needs. Those resources from a Chinese medicine perspective, and I should mention I am talking about Chinese medicine, Eastern medicine nutrition, which in a lot of ways is very similar to Western medicine nutrition, but I think it's better and it has more to it because we don't just look at the macros, fat, carbs, protein, things like that, and micros, but we look at the energy of the food and how that energy affects different organs in our body and how that energy affects our energy. So from a Chinese medicine perspective, for fertility, the resources that we really need our blood, so actual physical blood in the body. Our blood volume needs to be able to double in size when we get pregnant. And in order to do that, our body actually needs the resources. That blood doesn't just come out of thin air the second we get pregnant. The second resource that's really important is yin. In Chinese medicine, yin is a thick substance. So it's any thick substance in our body, which includes sex hormones such as estrogen and progesterone. And lastly, there's just overall qi and energy, right? Our body needs enough energy to support life and growth. When it comes to qi, when it comes to energy, it's really important to be supporting, one, the energy of our spleen. And the reason for this is because the energy of our spleen is responsible for our digestion, right? Our spleen digests anything that comes our way, our thoughts, beliefs, mindset, things people tell us. It digests everything that we get from the outside world. It also digests our food. Now, why digesting our food is so important is because, we could be eating all the good food in the world, but if our body isn't able to digest and assimilate and absorb those nutrients, then it doesn't really matter. You might as well be eating McDonald's all day. On top of digestion, another major function of the spleen is holding things in place, right? So the spleen holds our organs in place, it holds our blood in place, and it holds a baby in place. So the energy of the spleen is insanely important for fertility. On top of that, we have the energy of the kidneys. Our kidneys, when I'm talking about the energy of the kidneys in Chinese medicine, it's important to understand that it's not the Western medicine organ, although the energy of the kidneys does have the same functions as the Western medicine organ, but it's that lower part of our body. So our uterus is actually included in the energy of our kidneys. But the energy of our kidneys store all of our energy. It stores all of our yin-yang energy, and that energy of our kidneys supplies the energy to our spleen to support digestion, which then supplies energy to our lungs to support breath, right? So it's all related and everything's connected. But the energy of our kidneys is really our powerhouse. The energy of our kidneys is also responsible for reproduction and growth. So to start with what you should be eating to support and optimize fertility, we need to start with supporting the energy of our spleen and really supporting our gut health and our digestive health. And from a Chinese medicine perspective, the best way to support your gut health, your digestive health, your microbiome, the energy of your spleen, all of that stuff is to eat warm and wet food. It is so vitally important to eat warm cooked foods because when we eat cold food, it takes more energy for our body to digest, right? So when we eat cold food, our body has to warm it up. It takes more stomach acid, more digestive enzymes for our body to actually heat up that food and break it down to assimilate into our body. Now, we can take the load off of our body, take the load off of our spleen qi and our spleen energy by simply feeding ourselves warm cooked foods, right? Already doing the work for our body. Warm cooked foods are easier for our body to digest, absorb, and assimilate, and therefore we're getting more nutrients from the food that we eat, and more nutrients means more resources such as blood, yin, sex hormones, qi, energy, all that good stuff that you need for fertility. Eating wet foods is really important because it also supports our stomach fluid. Our stomach needs a lot of fluid for digestion also. So eating things like soups and stews are really important. Soups and stews culturally have been a big part of most cultures' diet, but I feel like in Western culture today, soups and stews have really gone out the door and we really need to bring them back. I would suggest at least having at least one soup, stew, or broth a day, at best 3, but let's shoot for 2, but at least one a day. And that can even just be bone broth, right? And I'll talk about bone broth probably a little bit later, but bone broth is really supported for your body and fertility. And that's a really easy way to get a soup in, right? A soup doesn't need to be a complete meal. It can be something like beef stew, which is really amazing for fertility also, or it can be something like bone broth or miso soup, something that has that really hydrating fluid to it. And also when it comes to protecting the energy of our spleen and our digestion, this goes back to wanting to eat wet foods, but cooking methods such as boiling and steaming are really best, or like fast sauteing, things that really hold the moisture into them. Constantly using a fryer or an air fryer, which is very popular these days, or really over roasting your vegetables and over roasting your food is really dehydrating on the body. So really focusing on wet foods is important also. And some other foods that are really supportive to the energy of our spleen, which again, the energy of our spleen is responsible for digestion and holding a baby in place. So vitally important. So things like root vegetables, sweet potatoes, beets, parsnips, turnips, carrots are all really wonderful for digestion. Also grains. Grains have gotten a really bad rap, and grains are so grounding for our digestion and so important for overall health and especially our fertility. So don't forget to add grains to your diet. Cooked whole grain, things like rice and millet and barley are so nourishing. They are so grounding and they're very hydrating, and I highly recommend them for fertility. And next, we want to support the energy of our kidneys, because the energy of our kidneys is the energy of our kidneys supports all of our energy, but the energy of our kidneys is really the powerhouse for reproduction and for growth of another human being in our body, right? In order to do that, really the best thing to do is to make sure you're feeding your body, right? Our kidneys need energy. And, the most depleting things you can do for your kidneys is to fast or to go long periods of time without eating. And the best thing you can do for your kidneys is to eat when you're hungry. So having at least 3 meals a day and snacks in between if you find that you're hungry in between. And some foods that help support the energy of our kidneys are things like walnuts and chestnuts, black sesame, black beans, kidney beans, seaweed, and black rice. So generally we think of black food and sometimes red food when it comes to the energy of our kidneys. So those are all really supportive for the energy of our kidneys. When I was trying to get pregnant with both of my children, actually, I had walnuts and chestnuts every day. And I still don't like the taste of chestnuts. So I would just chop them up and put them in like oatmeal or something. Walnuts I do like, so that was easier for me to digest. And black sesames. And black sesames are also really wonderful if you have sluggish digestion. And they will help promote a bowel movement. So also just be aware that either way, if you don't have sluggish digestion, you don't want to have too many black sesame seeds. When you are eating black sesame seeds, it's best to grind them up so that you get the full benefit of them. And in general, all seeds are really wonderful for fertility, because when we talk about food in Chinese medicine, it's really the energy of that food. And when you think of seeds, they're the seed of life, right? And that's what we want to be supporting, the seed of life, the seed of growth, right? So all nuts and seeds are really wonderful for fertility overall. And next, we want to make sure we're feeding our body the food it needs to be able to create the resources that it needs. And one of those main resources is blood. I cannot say this enough. I actually had a patient ask me the other day, because I was doing her intake, and at the end I was like, we really need to support creating blood in your body. And she's like, is that what you tell everyone? And the honest answer is, when it comes to fertility patients, that's what I'm telling probably 95% of my patients. It's not the only thing I'm telling them, but it is a big part of it, because building blood is a big part of fertility. Like I said before, your body needs to be able to double in blood volume to be able to support a pregnancy, right? To support a placenta, to support another child in your body. And blood is a really precious resource. And some foods that you can eat to support the building of blood in your body are red meat. It's best if you can get grass-fed and organic red meat. Quality is always important if it's available to you, right? It needs to be available to you. But fat is better than not fed overall. Eating small amounts of red meat frequently is really helpful for building blood. And when I say small amounts, I mean 2 to 6 ounces, not a big 16-ounce T-bone steak, right? Enough that your body can digest and absorb what you're eating. And when I say frequently, I mean every day. And for some people, it can be 2 meals a day, right? It really just depends on you and your body. When I was trying to get pregnant with my second child, it only took me 2 months, and I had red meat at least 5 days a week. Red meat is so helpful for building blood. Other foods that support building blood are beans and lentils, especially black beans and red beans and lentils. When it comes to building blood, we do associate with red foods for the most part, not every red food, but a lot of them. So Berries are really supportive for building blood. Bone broth is really helpful for building blood. It has that like thick collagen aspect in it. So bone broth is also really helpful for building yin, which I'll talk about next, but bone broth is wonderful. Eggs are really supportive for building blood in the body. And eggs also go back to that like seed of life energy idea, right? Like you're eating the egg and you want to support the health and the growth of your eggs. Cooked leafy greens are really helpful and supportive for building blood. Beets are really wonderful. And again, all this food needs to be cooked for your body to be able to digest and absorb it and to be able to create blood with it. And I should mention, I'm just giving you a short list of blood building foods. And next I'll talk about yin building foods. And again, I'm going to give you a short list. There are bigger lists, and if you want the full list, just DM me or email me, and I'm happy to send it to you. I'm just pointing out the foods that are super supportive and the foods that I regularly tell my patients and the foods that I would focus on if I was trying to get pregnant or I was trying to support my reproductive health in any way. So next, let's talk about yin building foods. So I mentioned yin is thick substance in our body. Yin is what is used to create sex hormones. Yin is sex hormones. So that being said, the best foods to support building yin are going to be saturated fats, right? That like really gelatinous fat is amazing for supporting your sex hormones, for building yin in the body. So things like butter is really amazing. And I should mention, even if you have a dairy intolerance or you're on a diet where you shouldn't be eating a lot of dairy, which typically if you have PCOS or some condition that has a form of dampness in it, you should avoid dairy, but butter is okay. So we have butter, we have red meat, we have marbled meat, eggs, coconut, avocado. Those are all really wonderful sources of saturated fat. Saturated fat also helps to hydrate and moisten our body, which is so important for so many reasons. But when we're talking about fertility specifically, our body needs fluid. It needs thin fluids to be able to create blood to support a pregnancy, and our body needs thin fluids to be able to create thick fluids. So it's really important to hydrate your body. And saturated fat is another way on tops of soups and stews to help support that hydration. And lastly, we have foods that you should be avoiding when trying to get pregnant. So top of the list are alcohol and coffee. I kind of strongly feel that everyone who's trying to get pregnant should be avoiding these. I actually put coffee on the top of the list because I only recommend things that I would do. And I don't think I avoided alcohol when I was trying to get pregnant. I am not a big drinker, so I probably had like one glass of wine a week, which I think that is fine. But you just don't want to be drinking every day, and you don't want to be drinking excessively. Alcohol is also dehydrating, so keep that in mind. But alcohol and coffee are definitely top of the list. Coffee is extremely dehydrating to the body. So we call it a triple dehydrator in Chinese medicine, right? It's a bean. Beans in general have a descending energy. On top of that, it's a roasted bean, which is a really drying process. And then you have a lot of beans when you're drinking coffee, right? It's not just like one coffee bean you're drinking. It's a lot of beans, a lot of dry roasted beans. So all of that is extremely dehydrating on the body. On top of that, the caffeine effect of coffee really depletes our adrenals. And when we're talking about adrenals, that is our kidney energy. And again, we really want to support that kidney energy. We don't want to drain that kidney energy. So people always ask me, like, is decaf okay? And it's not, honestly, because of the dehydrating aspect of it, but occasionally it's fine. And then people always ask me, is it okay to swap with matcha or black tea or green tea? And to that, again, I say it's fine, but you just need to be conscious of the way you're using it and why you're using it. If you're using caffeine because you don't have enough energy to get through the day, that's a sign that you need to take a nap, not a sign that you need more caffeine. If you're using matcha or tea the same way that you're using coffee, right, to wake you up, to give you energy, then it's not okay to have. If you're having it because you want a morning drink and it feels good and you're using it responsibly and consciously, then that's okay and that's supportive. I think it's always important to be conscious of what we're eating and why we're eating it. Okay, next on the foods that you want to avoid, things like excess sugar, excess gluten, and excess dairy. You know, some people, you might want to take this out altogether if you do suffer from conditions such as PCOS or sluggish thyroid or allergies would be another one. It would be best to avoid things like sugar, gluten, and dairy. But for the general population, I think in small amounts, it can actually be supportive to have those in your diet. I mean, sugar just for fun, but wheat and dairy can actually be supportive for your body too, to help support building yin. But again, in moderation, and quality is really important when it comes to things like dairy and gluten, especially. And if you feel like you don't have access to good quality wheat or good quality dairy, then maybe just avoid it altogether. And the reason you want to reduce or avoid those foods is because they can create mucus in the body. That happens because those are foods that are hard for your body to digest. Anything that's hard for your body to digest, cold foods will also create mucus in the body. Anything that's hard for your body to digest is going to create stagnation and create mucus in the long run. And mucus in the body can show up in so many ways. When it comes to fertility, it can show up as not ovulating or having trouble to ovulate. It can show up as fibroids or polyps or PCOS. It can show up as excessive weight gain or low thyroid function. So if you are someone who's prone to mucus type conditions in the body, it's best to avoid those. And also adding to that list, anything that's foreign to the body, right? So this is not medical advice. I should mention that before I say this. This is not medical advice, just the way we view things in Chinese medicine. Medications are foreign to the body and harder for your body to digest, and therefore will create stagnation, create mucus, create an environment of cold and damp for the most part. Things like gums and artificial sweeteners, and again, like anything that's not food that's grown on the earth or something that eats the earth, typically is going to be harder for your body to digest and can create mucus in the body. So really focusing on whole foods. Some other foods to avoid that are lesser known and lesser talked about are onion, garlic, and spicy foods. Now, when it comes to fertility, we want to keep our body warm. We don't want it to be hot and we don't want it to be cold. And the thing about onion, garlic, and spicy foods is they are all very hot foods. And hot foods are problematic because one, they're very drying on our body. And again, like I talked about before, hydrating your body is super important for fertility. On top of being dehydrating, they form heat in the body, so that heat can form inflammation. And inflammation is just something that we don't want ever, but especially for things like fertility. So in general, I say to avoid onion, garlic, and spicy foods. For most people, again, like it depends on like what conditions, symptoms you are suffering. But for most people, I'll say just don't cook with it at home, right? And if you go out or order out, don't make a big deal about it. And I kind of feel like that about food in general. Like we don't need to make such a big deal about it, right? We do need to eat these foods, and we do need to eat these foods in the right way. And we need to eat these foods to support our body and our health and our fertility. But not every meal needs to be perfect. It's better to be fed than to be not fed. And we don't always have to make a big deal about our meals and our food. And use this as a guideline, right? You should never come at things from a place of control, because a place of control is from a place of restriction, right? So when I say these are the foods and how you should be eating these foods for fertility, I do 100% mean it, but also listen to your body. Listen to what feels good, right? Your body will tell you what it needs if you are able to tune in and listen, which is a practice. It might not come naturally, it might not come right away, but it is a practice over time. Most of the time when I tell people to stop eating things like salads and smoothies and yogurt bowls, at first they're upset, and then the next week they come back to me and they're like, actually, I feel a lot better and I didn't even realize it. Because when you've been doing a habit for so long, you often don't realize how it affects your body and how it actually feels. So I do always say to come at these food advice and these nutrition tips as coming as a place of love and curiosity and trying it and just seeing how you feel. And like I mentioned, if you want the complete list of foods that support building blood and support building in your body, DM me or email me or reach out, and I'm happy to send them to you, because again, I think this is information that every woman should have. If you want deeper support or you want personalized one-on-one support on how to optimize your fertility and get pregnant naturally and faster, go to my website and check out my page called Femergy. That is my 3-month program where I really help support women either optimize their fertility or work through their reproductive health, whatever your goal might be. But it's a really wonderful, comprehensive, supportive program where we go over targeted diet and nutrition for you, lifestyle, mindfulness, thoughts, beliefs, emotions, and how everything is affecting your body so that you can really optimize your reproductive health. And as always, if you have any additional questions, please reach out. I love to chat with you. And thanks again.